1. My wake-up call. When I realized. My memory was slipping. They say the little things sneak up on you first. For me, it began in the most ordinary of ways. I was standing in the kitchen, trying to remember why I walked in there. I stood there staring. At the counter, blank. I even opened the refrigerator door like it might trigger something. Nothing. At first, I laughed it off. Senior moment, I said to myself, brushing it aside. But deep down, I felt uneasy. It wasn't just one forgotten reason for walking into a room. Over time, it became a pattern. I began misplacing things. My glasses, my keys, even the remote. Control. I'd find them later in the oddest places. My glasses once turned up in the pantry. I wish I were joking. Even more unsettling were the moments when I'd forget names. Not strangers, people I knew well. I remember being at a friend's birthday dinner, trying to introduce someone I'd known for 20 years, and I just froze. Her name hovered on the tip of my tongue, but it wouldn't come out. The emotional toll. What bothered me most wasn't just the forgetfulness, it was how it made me feel. I started doubting myself. Was I just tired, distracted, or was something deeper going on? I didn't want to admit it, but I feared it might be the beginning of something serious, like dementia. That word alone used to make me shudder. I didn't talk to anyone about it for a while. I thought I was overreacting. Or maybe I didn't want to seem weak, but inside, I felt like I was losing part of who I was. My memories weren't just names and dates. They were pieces of my identity. The moment it hit me. There was one day that changed everything for me. I had a doctor's appointment, routine, nothing serious. I left the house early, got in my car, and drove off. About 10 minutes later, I realized I was driving in the wrong direction. I wasn't just a little off. I was completely on the other side of town. I pulled into a parking lot and sat there for a long time. It wasn't like I had forgotten where I was going, but it was like my brain was on autopilot, and it took me somewhere I didn't mean to go. That moment shook me. I came home later that day and told my daughter. She listened quietly, then said something simple. "Maybe it's time we looked into it, Dad, just to be sure." Taking the first step. With her encouragement, I made an appointment with my doctor. I was nervous, not just about what I might hear, but about the idea that I needed to do something about it. There's something intimidating about admitting that your mind isn't as sharp as it used to be, but I'm so glad I went. My doctor asked a series of questions, ran a few basic memory and cognitive tests, and we talked about my overall health, sleep, stress levels, and lifestyle. And here's what I learned. What gave me the greatest sense of relief. Some memory loss is completely normal as we age. But that doesn't mean it's out of our control. In fact, many changes in memory are tied to simple, everyday habits and can be improved with attention and consistency. Facing. My reality. Walking out of that appointment, I had a new mindset. I wasn't helpless. I didn't have to sit back and accept that my memory would get worse with every passing year. I could take control. But first, I had to face the truth about where I was. I kept a journal for a couple of weeks and started tracking my memory lapses. I noted when I forgot something, what was happening around me, whether I was stressed or tired, and whether I had eaten or exercised. Patterns began to emerge. I noticed my memory was worse on days I skipped breakfast, or when I didn't sleep well, or when I spent too much time sitting and not enough time moving. This wasn't just a coincidence. It was a wake-up call. Opening up to others. I got past the fear of admitting what was going on. I found that others around me, my friends, neighbors, even folks at the senior center, were going through the same thing. Some were brushing it off. Others were quietly worried like I had been. But a few had already started making changes, taking memory supplements, doing puzzles, walking more, meditating. Talking to them was eye-opening. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, and that we all have more power than we think. A turning point, not a decline. I began to see this not as a decline, but as a turning point. Instead of viewing memory changes as a slow fade into forgetfulness, I saw them as signals, warnings telling me to pay more attention to how I was living. The brain, after all, is like a muscle. And just like we work to keep our bodies strong, we have to work to keep our minds sharp. This was the beginning of a new chapter for me. One filled with learning, practice, and lots of little victories. I wasn't going to settle for a fading memory. I was going to fight for clarity, sharpness, and peace of mind, one small step at a time. Final thought on this section. If you've had those moments, walking into a room and forgetting why, misplacing your phone, blanking on a familiar name, I want you to know this. You're not broken. You're not alone. And it's not too late to turn things around. That first moment of forgetfulness might feel scary, but it could also be your first step toward something better. A chance to rediscover, focus, rebuild memory, and regain your confidence. What I learned about aging and the brain after that wake-up call, I knew I couldn't just hope my memory would fix itself. I needed to understand what was really happening in my brain, not based on fear or guesswork, but facts. So I started reading. I watched expert interviews, read medical articles, talked to doctors, and even asked questions in support groups. What I found was both reassuring and surprising. Aging and the brain. It's not all doom and gloom one. Of the first things I learned was this: forgetfulness is not always a sign of Alzheimer's or dementia. That idea alone lifted a weight off my chest. Sure, our brains do change as we age, but that doesn't mean we're destined to lose who we are. In fact, many memory lapses, like forgetting where you put your keys or struggling to recall a name, are part of normal aging. Our brains process information a bit slower, and we sometimes need a little longer to retrieve memories. But slower isn't broken. It's just different. I also discovered that memory is only one part of the brain's function. There's also focus, attention, reasoning, language, and emotional regulation, and many of those areas stay strong well into our later years. In some ways, we even get better with age, especially at recognizing patterns, solving problems, and seeing the bigger picture. That gave me hope. Why memory slows down? After 60 so, what causes this slowdown? I found several culprits. Decreased blood flow to the brain. As we age, our circulatory system becomes less efficient, and the brain might not get the oxygen and nutrients it needs. Shrinking brain volume. Some brain regions shrink slightly over time, especially the hippocampus, the area responsible for forming new memories. Fewer neurotransmitters. These are chemicals that help brain cells communicate. We make less of them as we get older, which can slow down processing speed. Lifestyle factors. This one hit hard. Poor sleep, chronic stress, lack of physical activity, poor diet, and social isolation all increase the risk of memory problems. I realized I couldn't control everything, like the natural aging of my brain, but I could absolutely influence many of the risk factors, and that was empowering. Myth-busting. What doesn't cause memory loss? There were also some myths I needed to unlearn. For example, I used to think, it's normal to forget everything when you're older. Not true. Serious memory loss is not an automatic part of aging. Crossword puzzles alone can keep your brain sharp. Helpful, but not enough on their own. Once your memory goes, there's no turning back. Science says otherwise. Neuroplasticity is real, even in later life. I read about studies showing that older adults can grow new brain connections if they challenge their minds and live actively. That means our brains can still adapt and improve with the right environment. It's like having a garden. If you keep watering it, feeding it, and giving it sunlight, it keeps growing. Neglect it, and it withers. Our brains aren't all that different. Understanding the types of memory. Another helpful thing I learned was the different types of memory and how they age. Short-term memory. This is your brain's scratch pad, holding information briefly, like remembering a phone number long enough to dial it. This can get a little shaky with age. Working memory. This lets you manipulate information in real time, like doing mental math. It may slow down, but it can stay strong with regular use. Long-term memory. Our deeper, older memories, like childhood experiences or life lessons, usually stay intact. In fact, many seniors say they remember the past better than what happened last week. Procedural memory. This is muscle memory, how to ride a bike or type. Thankfully, it's the most resistant to aging. Understanding this helped me realize I wasn't losing everything. I just needed to strengthen the areas that were weakening and appreciate the parts that were still going strong. What the doctors told me. During one appointment, I asked my doctor a very direct question. How can I tell the difference between normal forgetfulness and something more serious? Here's what he told me. Occasional forgetfulness, like missing an appointment, then remembering later, is common. Serious memory issues involve getting lost in familiar places, repeating the same question over and over, or struggling to follow conversations. If memory loss interferes with daily life, it's time to seek help. He also explained something I hadn't considered. Depression and anxiety can mimic memory loss. When our minds are preoccupied, our memory struggles to take in new information. That's why treating emotional health is often just as important as brain training. That was a big aha moment for me. Memory isn't just about the brain, it's about the whole person. What the science says. We can do based on my research and talks with professionals. Here's what the science consistently recommends to protect memory after 60. Move your body. Exercise increases blood flow to the brain and helps generate new neurons. Even a daily walk matters. Eat brain-friendly foods. Omega-3s, leafy greens, berries, nuts. These all support cognitive health. Get quality sleep. This is when the brain clears toxins and stores new memories. Challenge your brain. Learning new skills, like a language or instrument, is more effective than just doing puzzles. Stay socially connected. Isolation speeds cognitive decline. Interaction is like exercise for your mind. Manage stress. Chronic stress shrinks the hippocampus. Practices like deep breathing, mindfulness, or prayer really help. I realized I didn't need to overhaul my entire life overnight. But I could start small. One better meal, one evening walk, one deep breath at a time. The power of understanding. Looking back, I think the most powerful part of this phase wasn't the habits I added, but the knowledge I gained. Understanding. How the brain works and how it changes with age took away a lot of the fear I had. It replaced it with focus, with purpose. Instead of thinking, I'm losing it, I began thinking, this is something I can work with. My brain may be older, but it's still mine. It still holds my story, my wisdom, my voice, and it's still capable of learning and growing, especially if I take care of it. The everyday habits that sharpened my mind once. I understood how aging affected my brain. The next question became, what can I do about it? It's one thing to read about how memory works, but I wanted real-life tools, simple things I could weave into my day without turning my world upside down, so I started experimenting. I didn't try to overhaul everything at once. Instead, I picked a few new habits at a time. Some stuck, some didn't. But over time, a handful of daily rituals became my go-to mental boosters. And honestly, I wish I'd started them sooner. Let me walk you through the most effective ones, habits that truly sharpen my mind after 60.1. Walking became my brain's best friend. I never used to think of walking as exercise. I thought it had to be something sweaty, painful, or in a gym. But science says otherwise. And now, I can feel the truth of it in my bones. A brisk 30-minute walk each day does wonders for the brain. It increases blood flow, helps build new neural pathways, and lowers stress hormones like cortisol. For me, walking isn't just about movement anymore. It's when I do some of my best thinking. I solve problems, process thoughts, and sometimes just enjoy the quiet. The days I skip it, my brain feels foggier. It's that simple. I started eating with my brain in mind. I used to eat for convenience, toast, coffee, fast food if I was tired. But after reading up on the brain-gut connection, I made some big changes. Here's what I began prioritizing: omega-3 rich foods, salmon, walnuts, flax seeds, leafy greens, spinach, kale, and arugula. Berries, especially blueberries, loaded with antioxidants, whole grains, oatmeal, quinoa, brown rice, turmeric, and green tea, natural anti-inflammatories. I didn't go on a strict diet, I just started, swapping out brain drainers for brain boosters. Fewer processed foods, less sugar, more color on my plate. Within weeks, I noticed a difference, not just in memory, but energy and clarity, too. Sleep became sacred. I used to stay up late watching TV or scrolling through my phone. I thought it was relaxing, but it was robbing my brain of something essential: deep rest. Memory consolidation happens during sleep. That means our brains literally sort and store memories while we rest. Once I understood that, I made sleep a priority. No screens an hour before bed, a regular bedtime, even on weekends. A dark, cool room with no distractions. Chamomile tea instead of coffee in the evening. I started waking up more refreshed, and over time, I noticed fewer of those "what was I doing again" moments. It wasn't magic, it was biology. Brain games. That actually work. I used to think Sudoku and crosswords were just pastimes. But now, they're part of my daily routine. The key, I learned, is not to just repeat the same puzzle every day, but to challenge your brain in new ways. I tried learning new card games, forcing my brain to learn and adapt. I started doing puzzles that weren't just fun, but unfamiliar. I even dabbled in apps like Lumosity and Elevate. Some are gimmicky, but some genuinely kept me sharp. The most powerful effect, though, came when I tried learning a new skill. More on that next. Or learning something new. Every week, this was the game changer. I started small, learning how to use a new app on my phone. Then I took a free online course in history. I even tried my hand at playing the ukulele. I'm still not great, but I'm definitely better than I was. The point wasn't perfection. It was about neuroplasticity, giving my brain new roads to build. Every time I learned something new, I felt like my brain lit up. Conversations flowed more easily. I remembered things more clearly. I felt awake in a way I hadn't in years. Writing things down, but not always. I used to rely heavily on lists, grocery lists, to-do lists, password lists. You name it, I had it. But I discovered something interesting. Writing things down helps memory. But relying on the list too much can hurt it. So now I write things down, but then challenge myself to remember them. For example, I'll make a list of 5 groceries, review it once, then go to the store without it. I turned it into a little game. Same with remembering phone numbers or appointments. I try to rehearse them mentally instead of reaching for my phone. It's not about being perfect. It's about giving my brain a workout. Staying social, even when it's easier not to. This one was hard during the pandemic, and even harder when I was feeling foggy or down. But staying socially connected is one of the strongest protectors of memory. I made a rule: never go more than 2 days without a real conversation. Not just texts, actual talking. Whether it's with a friend, a neighbor, or my daughter, I make the effort. Even joining a local book club helped. Discussing stories, hearing different opinions, it all keeps my brain alert and my heart full. Mindfulness changed everything. At first, I thought meditation was only for monks or yoga types. But after trying a few 5-minute sessions on YouTube, I was hooked. Just sitting still, closing my eyes and focusing on my breath helped me in unexpected ways. It calmed my racing thoughts. It made me more aware of what I was doing, and over time, it improved my working memory, the kind that helps you juggle tasks or follow conversations. Even 1 minute of silence before I start my day helps set the tone. And when I feel frazzled, I come back to that breath. It's the little things, done daily. None of these habits are earth-shattering, but when practiced consistently, they become powerful. It's not about adding more stress to your day. It's about making your daily life work for your brain. A short walk, a colorful plate, a real conversation, a puzzle before bed. These things don't just keep you busy, they keep your mind alive. The hardest part was getting started. But once I saw the results, I didn't want to stop. These habits didn't just boost my memory, they gave me back confidence. I stopped fearing the future and started feeling in control again. That, to me, is the best gift of all. How I rewired my routine for brain health. When I first realized that my memory wasn't as sharp as it used to be, I assumed I needed some sort of miracle fix, a special pill or breakthrough treatment. But the more I learned, the more I understood this truth. It wasn't about finding something new. It was about doing what I already knew, consistently. In other words, I didn't need a miracle. I needed a routine. And so I made a decision. I was going to rebuild my daily life around my brain's health, not just my convenience. Let me share with you exactly how I rewired my routine and how doing so gave me clarity, calm, and confidence, like I hadn't felt in years. Morning. Setting the tone for my brain. Before all this, my mornings used to be rushed. Wake up, check my phone, sip coffee while scrolling the news, and forget half the things I needed to do. Now, my mornings are intentional. Step 1. No screen for the first 30 minutes. I can't tell you how much of a difference this has made. Instead of flooding my brain with notifications, emails, and negativity first thing in the morning, I give myself quiet. Sometimes it's just sipping water by the window. Sometimes I stretch gently or journal. Either way, I let my brain wake up naturally, not in panic mode. Step 2. 10 minutes of movement. I do a few yoga stretches, walk around the garden, or climb stairs if the weather's bad. Nothing intense, just something to get blood flowing. To my brain, those 10 minutes, they wake me up better than caffeine ever did. Step 3. Memory warm-up. I started a habit I now love, reciting things from memory. Some mornings I'll try to remember a short poem I once knew. Other times I'll list the names of my childhood friends or past vacations. It's like stretching for your brain. And it works. Midday, fuel and focus. This part of the day used to be chaotic. I'd skip lunch or eat whatever was easy. I'd multitask like crazy, telling myself I was being productive, but I wasn't. Now, I follow a different rhythm. Brain fueling. Every lunch includes protein, healthy fats, and greens. My favorite go-to? A spinach salad with walnuts, olive oil, grilled chicken, and blueberries on the side. I learned that foods like these not only fuel the body but also reduce brain inflammation. I feel more alert afterward instead of sluggish. Quiet focus sessions. Instead of multitasking, I work in 25-minute focused bursts. Whether I'm reading, writing, organizing papers, or even doing chores, I set a timer and give it my all for that short period. Then I rest. No guilt. This structure helps my brain stay disciplined and clear, not scattered like before. Afternoon, recharge, not collapse. Before, my afternoons were when I crashed. I'd either nap too long or zone out in front of the TV. But now I treat this time as a brain recharge zone, not a mental blackout. Nature time, I take a walk outside, even if it's just in my backyard or on the porch. Seeing green, breathing fresh air, listening to the birds, it settles me. Studies show that time in nature boosts memory and focus. But you don't need a forest, just a bit of sky and quiet. Mind games, I have a small basket of puzzles, trivia cards, and brain teasers by my chair. Sometimes I'll do a crossword. Other times I'll challenge myself to solve riddles or memory games. It's not about being perfect. It's about keeping the brain engaged in joyful ways. Evening. Winding down intentionally, the way we end our day has a huge impact on brain health. Sleep isn't just for rest. It's when the brain cleans itself and stores the memories we formed during the day. So I made big changes to my evening routine. Digital sunset, I now shut down screens at least an hour before bed. No scrolling. No emails, no news. Instead, I might listen to calming music, write in a gratitude journal, or read a real book. My brain knows, it's time to slow down. Light dinner, herbal tea. I used to snack late into the night. That stopped. Now I eat a light, brain-friendly dinner, like grilled veggies, lentils, or soup, and drink chamomile or peppermint tea to calm the nerves. Digestion takes energy. A lighter dinner means more energy for the brain to clean house overnight. Review the day from memory. This habit surprised me with how powerful it is. Before bed, I try to mentally walk through my day. Who did I talk to? What did I eat? What 3 things made me smile? It helps with memory retention and gives me a sense of closure. My mind rests easier when I've reflected. Weekly rituals that make a big impact. Some brain boosters don't happen every day but are still essential. These weekly habits became part of my rhythm too. Learning something new, a recipe, a song, or even facts about another country. Connecting deeply with someone, not just small talk. Real connection with a friend or family member. That emotional bond fuels memory. Trying something uncomfortable, whether it's using a new app or going to a new place, stepping out of my comfort zone sparks brain growth. What I gave up for the sake of my brain rewiring. My routine also meant saying goodbye to things that were quietly stealing my mental strength. Overscheduling. I used to try doing too much. Now I leave room to breathe in my day. Constant noise. I reduced background TV and mindless radio. Silence is powerful. Late-night worry. I created a worry list I write down before bed and let it stay on the page instead of in my head. Processed food traps. Fast food is easy, but it leaves the brain foggy. I traded convenience for clarity. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about being deliberate. Routine, stability, memory. I never thought a daily schedule would change how I felt about aging, but now my routine anchors me. It tells my brain, you are cared for, you are supported, you are safe to grow, and you know what? I don't feel like I'm losing my memory anymore. I feel like I'm gaining it, one mindful day at a time. My personal memory routine, a day that works. After a lot of trial and error, research, conversations with doctors, and listening to my own body and brain, I eventually settled into a daily routine that not only supports my physical health, but dramatically improves my memory and mental clarity. This final section is a detailed walkthrough of my personal memory-boosting routine, broken down by the hour. And while it's not meant to be a one-size-fits-all schedule, I hope sharing what works for me gives you inspiration to create your own version. Let's walk through a day in my life, one that works with my aging brain, not against it. Morning, 7 a.m., 10 a.m., wake, move, focus, 10 a.m., gentle wake-up and mindful moments. I start my day with calm, no alarms blaring. I usually wake naturally around this time or use a gentle chime alarm if needed. First thing, a glass of warm water with lemon. It's my way of signaling to my body, we're starting fresh. Before I even touch my phone, I sit in stillness. Sometimes by the window, sometimes just in bed. I take 5 to 10 minutes to breathe deeply and Repeat this question in my head. What is one thing I want to remember today? This helps anchor my attention and brings intention to my memory. 30 a.m. Light movement. I don't rush into intense exercise. Instead, I stretch. A few yoga poses, a short walk around the block, or 5 to 10 minutes on my stationary bike. This isn't about burning calories, it's about waking up my brain through blood flow. Movement in the morning has been a game changer for my focus. AM brain-boosting breakfast. My go-to memory breakfast looks something like this: oatmeal with blueberries and walnuts, a boiled egg or Greek yogurt, green tea or black coffee. Why? Because it's packed with antioxidants, healthy fats, and protein. These are the fuel my brain needs to perform. M. Memory work. I try to set aside 30 minutes to do something mentally challenging. This might include recalling names of people from the past week, trying to memorize a quote or poem, working on a puzzle, crossword, or playing chess online, reading a book and summarizing it in my own words. This focused memory time is like going to the gym for my brain. Midday, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., learn, connect, eat. Smart 10 a.m., skill practice or learn something new. 3 times a week, I dedicate time to learning. Some weeks, it's a new recipe. Other times, I'll take a free online class, history, science, even art. I've even learned to edit basic videos, something I never thought I'd try in my 60s. What matters most is the act of learning. It keeps the brain flexible, builds new neural connections, and fights decline. 8 p.m. Social connection. I try to talk to someone each day, not just small talk, but meaningful conversation. Sometimes it's a phone call with a friend. Other times I'll meet someone for coffee or join a senior discussion group at the community center. Socializing has helped me remember names better, follow longer conversations, and feel mentally engaged and supported. PM. Lunch, that. Love's my brain lunch is usually light with leafy greens, spinach, kale, a lean protein, chicken, lentils, or salmon, healthy fats, avocado or olive oil, a piece of fruit for sweetness. I drink water with lemon or unsweetened tea. I avoid heavy carbs that make me crash. Afternoon, 2 p.m., 5 p.m., rest, recharge, reset 2 p.m., power rest, or silent reflection. This is when I either lie down for 20 minutes, never more than 30, or take what I call a silent pause. I sit in a quiet room, close my eyes, and breathe deeply. It helps reboot my mental energy. PM. Brain-friendly activity. This might be listening to an audiobook or podcast, doing a creative task like painting or organizing, reviewing my to-do list without obsessing, going for another walk. Even light chores like watering plants or folding laundry, when done mindfully, can stimulate memory and focus. Evening, 5 p.m., 9 p.m. Wind down, reflect, prepare 5:30 p.m. Simple dinner. Dinner is the lightest meal of my day. It often includes steamed veggies, a small portion of whole grains, quinoa or sweet potato, herbal tea, chamomile or peppermint. I avoid sugar and alcohol in the evening. They mess with both my sleep and memory. 30 p.m. Relaxing activity. This is my no-pressure zone. Sometimes I'll knit. Sometimes watch a nature documentary. Often I'll write in a journal. Just a few lines about how I felt that day. One powerful habit I added. Writing down one thing I learned today. It reinforces memory and creates gratitude. PM. Digital wind down. This part changed everything. I turn off all screens. Phone, tablet, TV. Blue light ruins sleep, and poor sleep ruins memory. Instead, I read a book, meditate or pray, sit with a candle and breathe. Do 5 minutes of gratitude journaling. Cos PM. Bedtime ritual. Right before I sleep, I mentally review my day. What did I do? Who did I talk to? What meals did I have? What made me laugh? This helps my brain consolidate those memories, locking them in. Then I sleep by 9:30. No exceptions. My brain thanks me the next day. Why this routine? Works, it's not because it's fancy. It's because it's sustainable. There's rhythm, intention, rest, and challenge, all balanced in a way that respects my age, energy, and brain health. I don't hit every item every single day. Life happens, but the more I stick to this structure, the better I feel. This routine keeps my thoughts sharp, reduces forgetfulness, helps me feel calm, makes daily life feel meaningful, and best of all, it makes me feel in control. Final thought. It's never too late. You don't need a perfect routine or a perfect brain. You just need to start where you are and build slowly with love. I used to fear memory loss like it was the beginning of the end. Now I see it as a signal, my brain asking for attention. By listening and adjusting my life with care, I didn't just regain memory. I gained clarity, peace, and a whole new chapter of growth.